It's times like these that remind me why people hate working on Worcesters, because this was just so unnecessary. But this is just one of the jobs I'm going to show you in this video. We're going to be working on some Biasis. I'm going to show you how to fix a boiler in 3 seconds. We've got to do some damage control after an expansion vessel decided to explode inside a boiler, and a few other jobs that I thought you might find interesting. But just before we get started, if you do want to get better at boiler repairs, I've got an organized library of all my jobs. I've also got a breakdown book that will help you fault finding when you're at jobs. Links are in the description below. For this first job, we've got F28, which means ignition failure. Now for the ignition, we need 3 things. We need oxygen, we need gas, and we need a spark. So the first thing I'm going to test straight away is the gas. So I've connected my U gauge to the gas valve, and I'm going to see if we get a drop. And after a few ignition attempts, we're not getting any drop. So now I know there's an issue with the gas valve. Now, this gas valve is known for getting stuck. So what you can do is just get a hammer, whack it a few times, and then reset the boiler and see if it works. A lot of the times it will. Sometimes it will only work for a day. Other times it will work indefinitely. So I'm just going to wait until I get a callback from the customer, and then when I do, I'll go back and I'll change the gas valve properly. But you can see it's working, so this job is all good. We're going to do my safety checks and then move on. For this next fault, we've got F72 on a Vaillant, which means there's an issue with either the flow or return sensors, which you can see right at the back there, the blue and the red. Now, we don't know which one it's going to be, so we're going to take both of them off and test them. Now, visually looking at it, I've got a feeling of what it's going to be, but I'm going to test it anyway. So I've taken off the flow, and as I'm looking at the return, you can see that something has been leaking. So what I think has happened is something's leaking from around the heat exchanger area. That's leaked onto the sensor and then damaged it. So the first thing I want to sort is the leak. So I'm going to take out this return pipe by undoing the nut on top of the pump. Then I'm going to remove this clip, and then it should wiggle down. But I think where it's been leaking, that's just super glued in. So I'm going to undo the clip at the top and wiggle the whole thing down. Now that that's out, we just need to take out the cable for the water pressure sensor, and it should just unhook out. So it's leaking somewhere here. It could be the plastic has cracked, or it could be the seal inside has failed. So looking at it, I can't see any cracks. So I'm gonna try replace this rubber seal, put it back together, and hopefully it doesn't leak. I've put it all back together. I filled it up to 1.5 and we're not leaking. So I think the cell, I can't seem to talk today. The seal has failed. I've replaced it and it's all good. So now I'm going to sort out the NTC issue. So you can see we're getting around 14 kilo ohms on the flow, which is all right. We should be getting between 10 and 12. And on the return, we're getting over 100. So that one is definitely faulty. So I'm going to swap that out for a new one, and you can see we're getting 12 kilo ohms, which we should be getting. So we're going to pop that back on the flow and return, and then hopefully the boiler is all good. Turn the power back on. I can hear there's a lot of air in the system, so I'm going to run the purge program. But aside from that, the boiler is all good, so we can move on to the next job. For this next job, we have the famous Worcester Greenstar. Now, this video is an example of why everyone hates working on Worcesters, because they're just not the friendliest of boilers to work on. But anyway, we've got an overheating issue. So anytime the hot water or heating is being called for, it's shooting straight over to 100 degrees. So we're going to do a bit of fault finding to figure out why, and then we're going to change over the faulty part. So if we just follow the sequence operation for a boiler, we know the first thing we get is a call for demand. We know we're getting that because the boiler tries to do something. Then it's the pump. Now, taking a look at the pump, it doesn't look like it's in the greatest of shape. So I can feel that the pump is getting scalding hot as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the PCB and I'm going to test whether I'm getting 230 volts to the pump. If I am getting voltage to the pump but the pump isn't spinning, then we know the pump is faulty. If I'm not getting 230, then it's probably a PCB issue. But as I'm testing it, you can see I'm getting 230, so we've definitely got an issue with the pump. Now sometimes the pump does just get stuck and you can unseize it by sticking a screwdriver and whacking it a few times, spinning it, but this one's not having it. Plus it looks like it's leaking from the top anyway, so I'm just going to change over the whole pump body. First thing we need to do is remove this condensate trap. Very easy. Pull down that little pin, pull out that pin, pull off the hose, and the trap comes out. Next, I'm going to remove the electrical connections for the pump. So we've got one at the top there, we've got one on the left that will wiggle out as well. And then I'm just going to quickly charge the expansion vessel to push out any excess water. Now, I honestly don't know what was going on with this clip. It just wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't twist, it wouldn't move, it was just stuck in place. So it got to a point where I had to get a screwdriver and kind of just force it up. And yes, the pump body broke, that clip broke as well, which it was obviously broken already. This was the source of the leak and it's probably leaked onto the pump, damaged the pump, which is why it's not working. And I don't know, for some reason the clip had failed. But yeah, so now I'm going to have to change the copper pipe that goes into the bottom of the heat exchanger because the clip and pipe comes as one. So ping that little clip out of the way and then I've got to wiggle this pipe down. So it gets to a point where it won't wiggle down anymore because it hits the plastic body there. So you've got to kind of hook it out like that. And then there you go, that's that out. So everything from here, I'm just going through the motions of removing the pump. So there's a few things we have to do. We have to move this gas pipe out of the way so we can get to the nut that goes to the expansion vessel. I did try removing that copper pipe which connects the pump body and the expansion vessel together, but I just couldn't get it out and I didn't want to damage the copper pipe. So I thought, you know what, I'll just unhook it out. So once I've taken this silver clip off, the pump will just wiggle left and then you'll see how I unhook the whole thing out. And there you go, that is our old pump body. And now it's annoying, this copper pipe did give me a few issues which I'll show you towards the end of this job. But for now I'm gonna wiggle this in and then we can start putting the new pump body in. As I was putting it back together, I realized this pipe isn't really lining up. And then when I compared it to the old one, you can see they're completely different sizes. So I had to order this part, which was annoying because nowhere had it in stock. So I had to wait a couple of days for it to come. So this is actually a couple of days later. So I've gone back and now I'm going to put in this new pipe and hopefully this one is the right size. At this point, we're pretty much all done. We just need to unisolate the flow and return, also the gas because we did play around with that gas pipe. Next, we can put some pressure into the system and make sure we have no leaks. And moment of truth. We've got a flame. I can feel the pump spinning when I put my hand on it. Nothing's leaking, nothing's overheating, so this job is all good. I still have no idea what happened to that old clip, but it's sorted now. For this job, we're working on a Biasi. Now, after looking in the manual and jumping on a phone call with technical support, it's this sensor for the flue that needs to be changed. So I've unplugged it and now we need to try spin it out. It is a little bit awkward to remove, but if you've got a good set of long nose pliers, you should be able to get it out. So that's the old one out. I'm gonna put the new one in, and again, very simple, screws in. Gonna tighten it up with my long nose pliers, run the hot tap and see if we've had some success. And there we go, a nice and easy job for once. For this job, we're doing damage control for an expansion vessel that decided to explode inside the boiler. So you can see water's gone everywhere. I'm hoping components such as the diverter and the pump or the PCB haven't been damaged, but you can see at the top there, that's where it's leaking from. Now, unfortunately, I have learned this the hard way, but if there's ever water that's leaking inside a boiler, you always have to try to find the highest point, because you can think something like the expansion vessel is leaking, but then if you look higher up, it's actually the flue that's leaking onto the expansion vessel and you thought it was the expansion vessel. So yeah, anytime I've got a leak, I'm always trying to find the highest point to try to find the source. But in this case, it is the expansion vessel, so we're gonna take off this little bracket, remove the top right screw for the case, and then this expansion vessel will literally just slide out. Now, this does feel like a brick because it's just full of water, especially compared to this new one that I've just slid in. So this is a new one, put it in, got my new washer there, gonna throw that in, tighten up the nut, and hopefully this will be a nice and easy repair as long as the other electrical components haven't been damaged from the water. But before I turn the power back on, I'm really taking my time to dry everything out with some tissue, a hairdryer, because the last thing I want to do is have a damaged PCB or pump. So really take my time, drying everything out, and then hopefully when we turn the power back on, it's all good. And there you go, we have brought her back to life. And that is it for this video. I tried to keep this one short and sweet because it's the bank holiday weekend. We're all busy with our friends and family, so hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.